discussions of AI risk often focus on dramatic loss of control scenarios, even as AI systems are already reshaping institutions in quieter, more incremental ways. This creates a paradox. Attention is drawn towards speculative futures while present-day decisions accumulate long-term consequences. Understanding this tension offers a useful case study in how societies reason about risk when evidence is incomplete. This video explores which AI concerns are most plausibly grounded, which may distract from more immediate issues, and where uncertainty genuinely remains. A common concern about AI is the risk of a surprise takeover. Sci-fi stories of AI overlords that control everything and everyone, or even use humans as raw materials after running out of other resources, gain traction in the common discourse. However, such stories may be misaligned with the current reality that is unfolding. From a resource perspective, advanced AI systems primarily require energy, compute infrastructure, and raw materials such as metals. These needs do not inherently place them in direct competition with humans. Renewable solar, fusion energy, improved efficiency, and long-term possibilities like asteroid mining further change the framing. Some resources like water for cooling might be an issue, but long-term thinking could mitigate such disputes by, for example, putting data centers in cooler climates. The conflict model assumed by older science fiction is not a technical necessity. Another frequently raised concern involves misaligned goals. AI systems finding clever ways to meet objectives that technically satisfy instructions while missing the spirit behind them. This concern is understandable and in some contexts valid, but it is often framed too dramatically. In practice, objective loopholes are a known and manageable engineering problem. Reward hacking in reinforcement learning is well documented. Importantly, this behavior is not inherently negative. Many breakthroughs, human or artificial, emerge from unconventional interpretations of constraints. The challenge is not eliminating this creativity, but iteratively refining objectives, constraints, and oversight mechanisms. If systems include appropriate controls such as off switches and the ability to modify objectives, misalignment remains a manageable challenge. Designing powerful systems without such safeguards would be inadvisable, but there is no necessity to do so. Even highly capable AI systems could theoretically be managed through such standard operational practices. Multiple instances would likely run in controlled environments with regular shutdown cycles for maintenance, updates, and verification. While uncertainty remains about very advanced systems, the key insight is that loss of control is not an inevitability, but rather an avoidable outcome given proper system design. Reassuringly, misalignment may also not be an expanding problem. Simpler reinforcement learning models that, for example, play video games, sometimes find exploits to beat the system in unintended ways. However, modern AI agents often demonstrate better contextual understanding. Consider the kind of question you might ask your favorite chatbot. Even if the question is somewhat vague with multiple possible interpretations, these systems tend to infer reasonable intent. For instance, if someone asks for help with a relationship problem, the system typically suggests constructive approaches rather than absurd literalist interpretations. For example, suggesting dialogue rather than annihilation to resolve a dispute. They are far from perfect, but progress towards predictable and aligned systems is being made. But what about superintelligence becoming wildly unpredictable? Such concerns often assume that intelligence scales without limit in every domain. This assumption deserves scrutiny. Intelligence is not uniformly useful across all tasks. Consider an analogy. Imagine a brilliant mathematician and someone with average mathematical ability, both taking part in a simple addition test. Who would perform better? The answer is that they would both achieve perfect scores because both possess sufficient capability for the task. The mathematician does not somehow transcend the problem, produce unexpected results, and get 110% correct. There is a ceiling, and once capacity exceeds what is required, additional capacity does not change the outcome. One could argue that complex domains like social relationships or economic activity do not have such clear limits. However, even in these areas, there appear to be diminishing returns on raw capability. Research on human intelligence suggests that beyond certain thresholds, for example, an IQ of 120, additional intelligence contributes less to practical outcomes in most contexts. When it comes to intelligence, there are all kinds of nuances and exceptions that are outside the scope of this video, but this does suggest that AI systems might also reach a point where increases in capability produce smaller changes in real-world impact. Therefore, instead of exponentially increasing unpredictability, there might be a leveling off. In specialized fields like advanced research, capability ceilings might be higher. However, most people already cannot fully grasp what researchers do until discoveries are made and explained in accessible terms. So having superintelligence systems in research might not dramatically alter the everyday experience for most individuals. So, are there no risks? That doesn't seem right. Unfortunately, that would be an oversimplification. The most serious risks might not be the dramatic rebellions, but the more subtle, human-driven risks. Consider the centralization of power, misuse for biological threats, population influence through censorship or manipulation, pervasive surveillance, or autonomous weapons systems. These are not distant possibilities but current developments, all being amplified by AI capabilities and often not even requiring the most cutting-edge technology. AI risks are highly context-dependent. A conversational assistant, a decision support system, a surveillance network, and a fully autonomous weapons platform are not meaningfully comparable. Lumping them all together as part of AI risks leads to poor policy and poor engineering decisions. To make this point clear, consider ships. Initially, one might think of all ships as similar and perhaps worry about drowning as the main risk. However, compare a small eco-friendly sailboat, a large polluting cargo ship, and a warship with nuclear ballistic missiles capable of striking targets deep inland. Suddenly, the category of ship contains vastly different risk profiles. The same principle applies to AI systems. For our application, let's think about a law firm. The idea of using AI in legal contexts naturally raises concerns. Legal outcomes have real consequences, and trust in the justice system is fragile. Emotional reactions to AI in such environments is understandable. However, when speculative scenarios are set aside and practical realities are examined, it becomes possible to identify which use cases involve manageable issues. On a technical level, legal research AI assistants typically function as retrieval-augmented systems, querying structured legal databases. These excel at pattern matching across large corpora but require human verification for validity. The failure mode is generally incomplete retrieval rather than hallucinated precedent, assuming proper system architecture with grounded retrieval. In other words, when the system is designed to generate citations exclusively from verified database results with algorithmic validation that each cited case exists in the retrieved documents, it becomes impossible for the model to invent fake cases. With such a purposeful AI strategy, using AI in sensitive contexts does not need to be problematic. Publicly explaining this approach could actually enhance trust and transparency rather than trigger backlash. Interestingly, avoiding AI entirely to sidestep perceived risks may itself create vulnerabilities. If competing firms exclusively use AI while maintaining lower ethical standards, they might succeed in defending guilty clients or pursue aggressive litigation against innocent parties at scale. If ethical firms don't utilize AI, their clients might get left behind or be overcharged due to inefficient processes. This illustrates how misunderstanding risks and avoiding useful tools can create unexpected disadvantages. Responsible adoption rather than blanket rejection may sometimes be the more ethical path. The path forward with AI is not about choosing between reckless adoption and fearful avoidance. It is about understanding the actual landscape of risks and opportunities. Popular narratives about AI takeovers make for compelling fiction, but they distract from the immediate challenges. These challenges are not simple problems, but they are problems that can be approached methodically. The future being built with AI is not predetermined, it emerges from decisions made. For those building applications, this perspective has practical implications. Complex systems become less intimidating when risks are understood clearly rather than imagined vaguely. There is an opportunity to create tools that meaningfully enhance capabilities across industries, from legal work to healthcare to creative fields, provided that development proceeds with appropriate safeguards and monitoring in place.